I'm Bryan Wolf, part of the creative team at Well Rhythms, and this podcast we're going to talk about self-insurance, which I don't know what that is, but I'm assuming you do.
Well, I hope so. Hi, I'm Ira Weintraub. I am one of the founders here at Well Rhythms, and I practiced orthopedic surgery for 40 years, so I know a little bit about it, and I've learned a lot since I've been here, Bryan, so it'll be an interesting conversation.
And today we're going to clarify the difference between self-insurance and fully funded plans. Is that correct?
Fully funded is when you buy a policy from Blue Cross. I always pick on Blue Cross, but they're pretty good to pick on. So that when you buy a policy or your employer buys a plan through Blue Cross, you pay premiums every month. The employer pays his share, you pay your share every month. It goes to the insurance company, and they take care of the adjudication of all the claims. They pay it. They have deals, and these days the hospital is the client of the insurance company, unfortunately not the patient anymore. So the insurance company figures out a rate to pay the hospital, and that's what is figured out when you have to pay your deductible or your copay or whatever. That's fully funded insurance.
But fully funded is what most of us are familiar with,
yes,
and what we have with our employers.
Absolutely. Most people are in fully funded plans. It's easier. You don't have to worry about the administration of everything. And you're really at least one step removed, because you don't spend much time as the employer understanding all the nuances of what is being paid and what is not being paid. That's really the insurance. You give that duty to the insurance company.
So when you are referring to when you can be a little bit removed, you're speaking from the perspective of the employer, not necessarily the employee of that employer.
No, I think it's both. I think the employee figures, well, I've got my Blue Cross, I'm good, I can go. Mm-hmm. Now, granted, Blue Cross is accepted in virtually every facility that I know of or have ever known of, but the fact is that as the employee, you go where the insurance contract is in network. That gives you your best deal, and usually you know that ahead of time.
So then what is self-insurance compared to what we know as far as fully funded?
Self-insurance is a different way to look at how your insurance is. The major thing is how it is funded. And interestingly, about 75% of America, the plans are self-insured.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Really? 75%?
Yes, 75%.
Huh.
Large companies use self-insurance because what you do is you pay the premium, but you pay it to yourself. And it goes into your insurance pool.
Okay. And
you only end up paying for what healthcare is utilized. Now, you have all the same types of components to the plan. You have deductibles, you have co-pays, you have all that like you do in a regular insurance plan. But what you don't have is you don't have to pay for advertising that the insurance company they advertise. No. You don't have to pay for their wellness programs. You might have one yourself, but it's going to be looked after by the employer or the person that is overseeing your plan. So a self-insured plan can be very specific about coverages, and the best part about it is if you're only paying for the health care that you use, the chances are you're going to save a lot of money.
So does that, you mentioned that it was a lot of bigger companies tend to be more self-insured. Is that because it's too much administrative for the bandwidth of a smaller company?
Well, all companies generally use a third-party administrator or a TPA. And this TPA is the one who does all the paperwork.
Okay.
The claims go to them, they look at it, they have various things they will do, and I'll talk about that in a second a little more, but they are the ones that end up, they pay the claim for you. You don't have to write a check out of the company. They write it for you, and they take care of all the determination. Are you covered under your insurance? Are you covered for that particular benefit? All the things that a fully funded, in the fully funded world, also that kind of stuff ahead of time, because you got to go in network to this hospital or this hospital, and you go to your in network doctors primarily. But when you are self-insured, that is something that the employer has to set up, and you have advisors. There's always a good, either a broker, or they want to be called advisors these days. And these advisors help you understand what you have to put into a plan document in order to cover your employees.
Okay.
And it includes all the same things as major insurance companies give you. It's just that, again, you are not paying for their profit. And when you buy an insurance policy from any insurance company, part of what they get, of course, is profit from your premiums. The other thing is that you have no control over the plan. First of all, it's administered outside of you, where if you are self-insured, you have full control over the plan, and you have no idea what it is that truly has been paid out over the year. The insurance companies keep that close to themselves, and they don't tell you about all the claims. But at the end of the year, next year's times comes up, they go, oh, well, based upon your experience, we're going to increase your premiums by 15%. And you have no control over that.
And no explanation other than that's an evaluation they made.
Well, they say they've evaluated what your experience was in the previous year.
Yeah.
So they're going to give you an increase in premiums. The work involved in the setup is nothing that most employers have in their knowledge base. Now, if you have a really smart HR person, they will be the ones to help figure out all the particular areas that have to be covered. Let's say, for instance, you want to set up a really good maternity benefit. You have young employees, there are going to be pregnancies, so you will set up a maternity benefit that works for your employees.
Yeah.
So you have
Your
control
demographic.
over how to set that up. And then again, the most important thing is the only money you spend is the money that you use for your health care. Now, of course, you have to pay the third-party administrator, your advisor gets paid, those people get paid along the way. But the important part about self-insurance is that when the bill comes in, the other part of the equation that you really need is a company, and usually it's an outside third party where you get the best look at your claims, is that this third party outside looks at the bill and looks at it before it gets paid.
Okay.
They make sure that what's in the bill should be paid, what's in the bill was done so that it can be paid, and all the other nuances of how providers, that's doctors, chiropractors, massage therapists, if you allow that in your plan, and hospitals or surgery centers, how they get paid. And this third-party advisor, this bill review company, or there are many names for them these days, but these companies make sure that what you're paying is the thing that you should be paying for.
And is that third party only available in a self-insurance scenario?
No, but they are. But the large insurance companies really they say they do that internally.
Okay.
And I know that is not true because of the work I do every day.
Sure.
I wouldn't be here if that weren't the case. But they don't really look at the bills. You would think that before Blue Cross pays your bill, they look at it before they pay it.
Ideally,
They don't,
yeah.
but I do. And so in a self-insured scenario, you have this ability to look at the bill before it gets paid.
So there's an empowerment to the employer
Yes.
that isn't available in a fully funded system.
And it takes education.
Sure.
You have to educate your HR person first of all, and then you have to make sure that your employer is educated, because usually employers are off somewhere else. They're not thinking about their insurance plan.
They're visiting their own private island somewhere.
Right. When in fact, health insurance is usually the second most significant line item in a budget for any company. Salary's number one, healthcare is usually number two.
Just the cost of it?
Just the cost. And that's the cost of getting the insurance. Now, large companies do what you call, they self-insure. Means that virtually anything that happens in the plan, they end up paying for. So they're taking a risk. But because they're large, 10,000 employees or more, that's a large company, they can take the risk because they have the money that they collect in the premiums works out that they can do it. Now, they may have a catastrophic policy that covers for things that get really crazy in the millions of dollars. Even a large employer would have a catastrophic policy. Now, it has been easier since Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act, since that was passed. It has been easier for smaller companies now to self-insure. And what they do, they call that level funding, meaning that for every employee, a certain amount is set aside each month, just like an insurance premium, and it's kept in your pool, but you have what they call stop-loss insurance to cover the bigger events. And there is stop-loss insurance that covers an individual. Let's say that you go to the hospital, it costs you $40,000. Well, your plan will pay up to $25,000, and anything over $25,000, the stop-loss insurance company will take care of.
Oh, so I wouldn't be responsible
You
for
would
that.
not be responsible for that.
And that's a feature of...
Of self-insurance.
Okay.
And the level funded smaller employer must have the stop loss because they couldn't take the catastrophic situation. They would never be able to afford it.
So with the stop loss carrier, or you said, do you pay a premium to them per month?
Yes, you pay a healthy premium to them to cover the big losses.
Okay.
The other thing that a stop loss insurance company does for a smaller employer is that, let's say, if all of your aggregate claims over the year gets to, let's say it's your number is $500,000. You have $500,000, and let's say you have a year where someone's claim was $1 million. You blew through your aggregate $500,000 with one patient.
Yeah.
Well, stop loss also has what they call an aggregate number. So if you reach the high level for the whole company, they will pay above that.
And again, that's not available from a fully funded...
No, the major insurance companies take care of all that internally,
Okay.
all by themselves.
Who would benefit from a self-insured situation?
Truly, I think lower than 50 employees, you have to worry about whether you could handle the risk.
Okay.
But 50 employees, you can put together a solid level funded plan. And again, level funding meaning you pay the premiums in every month, and you have stop loss to cover the big outliers.
So less than 50, if I understand you right.
Less than 50 is tougher. You just
Even with stop loss,
Yeah.
because you don't have enough coming in from a premium
exactly.
that even stop loss wouldn't cover
right,
it.
exactly.
Okay, that makes sense.
But certainly all mid-sized companies, if you have 1,000 employees and you're not self-insured, I think you're making a big mistake. Because entrusting that amount, though that number of employees with all the premium dollars that are pulled in, entrusting that and just handing that over to Aetna Insurance Company,
Yeah.
pick on somebody else, entrusting that to them that they're going to take care of all the things, which you know they will, but you also know next year it's going to cost you more.
Yeah. So as far as like my personal experience, if I were to be a part of a company that decided to change to self-insured, how would that affect me as an employee?
The chances are, hopefully, the scenario is that it doesn't. You don't notice the difference.
Okay.
You don't notice a difference. One thing that self-insured employers often do is they will rent a network from a larger insurance company. They will rent the Blue Cross network.
Okay.
Which means every Blue Cross, everybody that has all providers who have a contract with Blue Cross will accept you, and the payment that you make will meet their.
And I'll still have like a Blue Cross
Yeah, you get the fancy
card.
You get a Blue Cross card, yet Blue Cross is not paying the bill.
So I may very well have already been part of a self-funded insurance, especially if you're saying 75% and just not aware of it because I had.
It's possible depending upon the company size, because prior to the ACA, it was not as prevalent as it is.
So I hear what you're saying, that the ideal situation, if my employer moved from a fully funded to a self-insured, that I wouldn't feel any like rocking of the boat, so to speak. But you mentioned earlier that there was potential, especially over a period of years, that if someone were to be in a self-insured situation, that there could be a possibility, a benefit in regards to that money saving up over time and potentially kind of catering those benefits to value the specific needs of their employee, hence me in that situation.
Absolutely. The money that is saved is put back to use in favor of the employee. I mean, think about it. You go to the doctor's office, there's no deductible. There's no copay. There's no reason for that. Your employer then offers 100% vision care, let's say, rather than the $100 you get to spend per year for a pair of glasses if you use vision care. Mm-hmm. There are ways to utilize that money that impact the employees in a really positive way. I mean, besides the fact the amount paid every year,
you mentioned
it will go
premium
down,
which I've never even heard of.
It will go down.
I've never heard of that at all.
I've only heard one time in my life of someone not getting an increase in their fully funded policy.
Yeah.
Only once in my entire life have I heard of that.
Yeah.
And that was in Q-Metrics days.
Sure.
They took care of everything well enough that there was no increase.
I mean, my previous experience, I mean, sometimes you'd see your premium. I remember one company, this is quite a few years ago, I mean, our premium completely doubled in 2 years.
Yes.
And it was, they were like, oh, healthcare costs are moving up and we're changing companies and, health insurance providers, it was a lot of information that was very generalized, but ultimately, like, my pocketbook was like, ouch.
Yes.
And
everyone feels that.
Sure.
Right down to to any member of your family that it might be covered.
Well, I mean,
that's especially difficult if you have family members.
Yeah.
Where the employee plus spouse plus children, those premiums go way up in that scenario.
And it really affected my feeling of value about the company. I remember specifically, I was like, these benefits went from okay to crappy, and maybe I need to find a new job with better health benefits because this is crap.
Employee retention is really a lot of times is tied to what benefits the employees continue to have.
I mean, it's part.
I was going to say
it's not always a working environment.
Yeah.
It's the.
Imagine a world though where you have benefits and a premium, and it stays the same. but instead of getting a hike, obviously staying the same, that's a coup, right? That's great.
Sure.
But
That's
then,
like getting a hike.
right.
In this day and
But
age.
then you get an email, and it's like, by the way, your company is now sponsoring a in-house daycare. You don't have to pay for daycare anymore because your company's able to pay for the daycare. Because yes, they didn't lower your premiums, but they're taking that extra money to do more creative things.
You're getting more value on that premium
Yeah,
dollar.
and it gives you an opportunity to be creative with that kind of stuff.
And if you see a benefit like that increase, again, at no cost to you, I think that makes you feel even better about the value you're getting from
Yes.
that company and your contribution there.
I think the biggest takeaway from all of this is that self-insuring is more and more not only just a viable alternative to get your health insurance, it's probably without question the best way. And I say that with the hope that if your company sets up a self-insurance plan, that they have a trusted advisor, one who's not just in it to make the money. You have a third-party administrator that does the work they should do. And the biggest thing, and of course you have to have the stop loss coverage, but I think one of the most important components is to make sure that you have another trusted partner who's going to look at your bills, who's going to make sure that you are paying what you're supposed to be paying, not things that you should never pay for.
Well, that kind of makes me wish I could travel back in time to, 1997, Bryan, and say, maybe you should talk to your HR department and find out if you're self-insured or not.